Japan up close.
Both Suhee and I actually talk about this a lot, and I think one of the big influences early in our life is that our parents dragged us into nature a lot when we were kids. We both grew up in big cities. I grew up in Silicon Valley, Suhee in Seoul, and our parents pulled us into nature a lot. We went camping a lot, did really long hikes for a week or 2 weeks, and that kind of gave us that different perspective. So I think that primed us to have this kind of, awareness in ourselves. And then so later when we met the natural farmers in Korea, then in Japan, kind of what they were talking about and the way that they were thinking and working and interacting with the world around them, it really, resonated with us on a deep level. And we really caught, wow, like their mindset is really the kind of thing that we think is missing in the world today. So does that sound right, Suhee?
Yeah.
Yeah. We started doing interviews with people about, what's wrong with the way that we're living and how can we be more sustainable. So during the course of those interviews with people, we met with mayors of big cities, we met with urban planners, we met with ecologists, and then we met this farmer in Korea. And the way he talked, he was explaining natural farming. And the way he talked about it really resonated with us. And it made a whole lot of sense to us. But he told us immediately, after the interview, if you want to know about natural farming, you need to go to Japan. You need to meet Kawaguchi Yoshikazu. He had been to Japan many times and learned from these people. So he started us on this path of inquiry, and we kind of just followed it, and it led us to Japan to find out what's going on there and interview a bunch of farmers around the country, and some farmers in California and Oregon as well. Natural farming is spreading pretty well around the world, even though Japan is kind of still the center. Yeah.
Natural farming, there are many different definitions, but we influenced from Masanobu Fukuoka mentioned and Kawaguchi Yoshikazu. So they are the big sensei in Japan, and the Mr. Choi in Korea we met for the very first time for short interview. He taught us a lot, showing his way of doing, and not only his farming, his living also. So we thought, wow, natural farming, not fighting each other, being harmonious. That's the key point we thought. So in our film, we mentioned, natural farming based methods, but it's not only about farming, it's about living philosophy. That's what we understood.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. So the basis is most of the way we farm nowadays is about trying to control nature and trying to make it do what we want it to do. And the natural farmers in Japan and elsewhere, they try to enter into a relationship with nature first, so that there's an understanding between myself and the soil, myself and the plants, myself and the animals. Like there's an understanding and recognition that there should be a dialogue, and that it shouldn't just be humans saying, I'm going to grow tomatoes here, and so we add fertilizer and we do all these things. Even if tomato doesn't really want to grow there, we try to make it happen. So it's a way of working together with nature. The goal of everything that we do with the City is Nature project is really to reconnect people and cities with the environment, because we realized again through it's heavily inspired by the natural farmers in Japan, who helped us to realize, city is part of nature. It's just, it might not be a good actor within the ecosystem, but it's part of it. So what are the ways that we can help the city be a good actor? For instance, cities tend to water, for instance, cities tend to channelize water and put it into these concrete line things. And that expedites the process of the water moving, but it creates all these problems of flooding, and then it creates problems downstream when the water enters to the ocean. And water doesn't like to be channelized like that. It's not supposed to be. So a lot of cities are realizing, well, why don't, instead of trying to fight against the water and push it where we want it to go, why don't we look at where the water naturally would go, the floodplain, which is a lot of times those used to be where you grow your seasonal crops, and people don't live there because they know it floods. So a lot of cities are thinking again this way, and again, it's the same premise as the natural farming. The foundation of natural farming is the same way. It's what does the water want to do, and how do we build a city that allows the water to do what it needs to do, because we realize that water running its course is beneficial for the environment. That's how it's supposed to happen. And when we flush all of it through channels into the ocean, we lose all the nutrients, we lose the soil, we lose all of these processes. So because cities are listening to ecologists more now, before they just ignored this kind of thing, they only listened to engineers and technical experts and whatever. But now there's a more rounded perspective in cities, and scientists are getting involved, and ecologists. And so a lot of cities are learning to deal with the floods by creating park systems, and creating places where the water can flow when it gets too high, and finding out ways to use those beneficially, instead of to just try and put a bunch of buildings on top of everything.
So the Kawaguchi Yoshikazu, the big sensei, he started personal teaching because many people asked him, oh, how you do natural farming? I want to know. So from 1991, he started Akame natural farming school. I don't know the official name in Japan. Anyway, we will send link. So this school, he get the land donation and start everything for free, and still every month they gather and do their seasonal teaching and farming, and we visit there many times and heard about the history. So at the beginning it was a small size, but all around Japan people come. So Kaguchi Yoshikazu-san, he asked the alumni, you start your natural farming school in your area. So also we met Kagamiyama Echiko-san in Fukuoka, Itoshima. So she started natural farming school in Itoshima. So around the Fukuoka area, people gather there and practice natural farming. Like that, there's big network in whole around Japan, and every 2 years they gather, right? So there's big network gathering, and they share their knowledge and talk, and it's a big conference. So like that, natural farming movement all around Japan. And in Korea, it's very beginning, but more and more young people interested in, and not only natural farming, permaculture network in Europe and America. So they contact us.
Yeah.
I want to know about natural farming, and we send some information. Maybe you visit there. So it's more and more spreading easily.
Yeah, there's kind of I guess, a cultural barrier a little bit, but from which kind of stops natural farming from being really big outside of, East Asian countries, I would say generally. And that cultural barrier is kind of like, Americans want to know the steps. Like, okay, you tell me I can do something, how do I do it? Step 1, step 2, step 3. And I thought this way too. I was a technical writer in my past life in Silicon Valley. 1, 2, 3. Americans and a lot of the West really think like this. And that's fine. That's really great for a lot of things. You can really organize and be efficient this way, but it doesn't work that way with natural farming, because natural farming is a dialogue between yourself and the plants and yourself and nature. Think of it like a relationship between people. You can't have a step 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's how you have a good life. You wake up and step 1, 2, 3 every day with your wife, and then you'll be like, it doesn't work this way, because life is always changing and always in flux. I think from a Western perspective, what I learned that I didn't necessarily know is slowness and awareness. That's like the key to unlocking everything, because when you start, and they work with each other. When you start going slow, you become more aware. When you become more aware, then you realize that the reality of the world around you is much different from what you might learn from something written on a page. And, a lot of us are used to learning about the world by learning facts, and this is how things are. And those are helpful as a context, but those definitions don't really convey reality. And so to know how we as individuals should move forward in our lives, we gotta slow down.
It's been 10 years. We started this journey, made the film and doing many works. And looking back, it's amazing. Yeah, I think slowly do what you can do around you. So for example, he just mentioned no cell phone. I have a cell phone. It's impossible for normal people to get rid of a cell phone, smartphone once, but instead you can reduce your time to hold on all the time. You can reduce the time slowly and do something else helpful for you, like walking in park, and slowly as much as you can do is the key. Otherwise, too much negative effect will come.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I experienced that, and I saw many people, okay, I want to do natural farming, I go to nature, but they are not ready, so they kind of failed. That was maybe necessary for them, and we experienced some failure, but yeah, slowly, step by step, and enjoy the process. That's my advice.
Japan up close.